10 middle-class mindsets that are keeping you poor. There's a reason that you're in the middle class. There's a reason that the middle class has enough just to have enough. They never get ahead. They usually save $100 to $500 a month, if not living paycheck to paycheck. You'll see middle class people making way above the average household income, but yet never saving anything. The middle class is the proverbial never getting ahead, and it is pathetic. You should not be in the middle class. The middle class has been lulled asleep. And today I'm going to tell you 10 reasons that these middle class people are stuck in the middle class. It has nothing to do with how much they make. It has nothing to do with their abilities. It has everything to do with their mindset. And you got to watch out. If you want to get and you want to become rich, you need to pay attention to these 10 mindsets so you can avoid having these 10 mindsets creeping up, and you can start thinking the right way so you can get rich today. Number 1 here, the middle class works a job and does not own a business. They're accepting a paycheck instead of pushing themselves to go the extra mile in becoming a business owner. You see, most of the rich people in our world today own something. They own a business, they own real estate, and that ownership produces them a ton of income. And at the end, when they want to get out in their 50s and 60s, that ownership in that business can be sold, and that's when they get riding off in the sunset at 5, 10, sometimes even 30 to $40 million selling their business that they built. As an employee, you work for 30 years and you have to squirrel away your own money, and you make less than that of a business owner, and you don't get to sell anything. They give you a cake at the end and they say, thank you for your 30 years of service. We don't need you anymore, old man. Take to walking. And they kick you out. And sometimes they force you out. That's the employee mindset. Middle class people are afraid to jump and own anything because of the risk of failure. They're scared of failure. They're scared of what other people think. So they stay and remain an employee instead of pushing themselves to be better. Number 2, middle class people have a big hat with no cattle. Middle class people love to look fancy and rich. In fact, the luxury brands are not for the rich people. They're for the middle class because they're the suckers who have enough to go in there and buy that Gucci bag after saving all year for it and blowing money on that Gucci bag, blowing money on that Louis Vuitton so they can look rich. They got to keep up with the appearance of being rich even though they're not. In fact, most rich people drive normal cars. Most rich people don't dress in obnoxious luxury brands. They don't, because they don't need to. They don't got to prove anything. When you got money in the bank stacked up, you ain't got to prove to anybody that you're rich. You are rich. Middle class people have a big hat, no cattle. That means they like to look like a big farmer, but when you go to their farm, they ain't got nothing in the cattle ranch. They ain't got nothing, but they're not rich at all. They continue to try to impress other people. Most people who are driving luxury cars are broke. Most people who have luxury brands have that nice purse. They're sitting back and coach, okay? The real rich people, they don't dress like that, and they don't spend $2,000 to $3,000 on a Louis Vuitton bag, okay? So number 3 here, the middle class people stop improving themselves. They settle. They settle in a job and accept their role. These people have been in the same job for 20 years, the same company for 10 to 15 years, and they're scared to go in and ask for a raise. They're scared to go in and ask for a raise. They're waiting for their boss to notice their effort. But let me tell you something about today's world, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody is going to notice you unless you open your mouth and you say, hey, I'm doing great. I deserve my money. I'm doing great. I deserve a raise. You haven't given me a raise in a year. What's going on? If you don't, I'm going to move companies. That's somebody who's looking at their life and saying, I deserve more, instead of settling. So many people, even if you don't start a business, you should stop settling for the job that you have. You should start actually looking at your career as a career, or if better than that, looking at your career as a business. It's time for you to improve your life and start looking for a better job today, instead of settling where you're at and being scared to ask your boss for a raise. The boss ain't going to give you a raise unless you ask for it, because he's not in business to employ you. He's in business to make money. And if he's got you at 40 and you would rather have 45, but you haven't asked for it, then he might be saying, oh, they're probably happy with 40. We don't need to pay him 45, but you need to go in there and you need to ask for 45. And if he won't pay you or she won't pay you, you need to go down the street and go work somewhere else. And that's the truth that a lot of you guys don't want to hear. Number 4 here, middle class people often go through divorce. The highest divorce rate is actually of the middle class because there is no goal, there is no plan. They have too much time on their hands. These people have too much time. And when you give somebody too much time, addiction settles in, money problems settle in, and looking around for another spouse comes in and they cheat on each other. The middle class kills each other with divorce and court and struggling over the little money that they have and over who gets the kids. High class, rich people don't do this because they're focused on the goal at hand. Okay? Me and my wife, we're not focused on, hey, did you buy me flowers today? Hey, what about this and that? We're focused on building our business. We're focused on making ourselves better from a fitness standpoint, from a personality standpoint. How can we improve ourselves? We have a plan and we have goals that we're going after. So together we go after those together. And divorce isn't on the table. Are you kidding me? We're a team. So many people in the middle class, they don't look at it as a team. They look at it selfishly. Usually the spouse says, well, you got a nice car, so I should get a nice car too. Oh, well, I want this house. I want this. And they're constantly pushing each other over the edge. This is why the middle class has a high divorce rate. Okay? Number 5 here, middle class people buy liabilities. They don't buy assets. They buy the fancy cars. They buy the fancy luxurious items. They don't invest their money. They don't invest in assets. They don't buy rental properties. They don't buy anything. They buy things that make them look good. And often the things that make you look good have no asset value. They have liability value, which means it goes down in value. Number 6, the middle class people are short-sighted and they waste time on the weekends. Middle class people love to blow money on the weekends. They go to Vegas and have these extravagant bachelorette parties. They go crazy. They go out to Vegas and blow money. You'll see these people going out and spending $300 to $400 on alcohol. They're constantly blowing money, living short-sighted, living for the weekend, going through their week, talking about how they're going to party all weekend. They go party all weekend and they come into Monday and Tuesday and they're still recovering from the weekend. How can you get ahead in life when you're constantly pulling yourself down? You can't give it your all at work to get that bonus or that raise when you're not even sober until Wednesday. You can't give it your all when you're wasting your weekend. The weekend is for you to get ahead. The weekend is for you, not for your employer. Okay? So your employer continues to make money on you during the week, and the weekend is when you need to start looking for another revenue source. When you need to start potentially looking at starting a business or starting a side hustle, getting yourself in a better point so that you can become more successful. But often what happens is they waste their weekends, they get drunk, and they blow their money. Number 7 is they fail to network outside of the people that they already know. Usually you'll see the middle class people, you know what they do? They say, I've been friends with so-and-so since elementary school. And let me tell you something, a secret about our world. You should not have the same friends from when you were in elementary school. You should constantly be cycling through your friends. I know this sounds crazy, but this is good advice. You need to be constantly moving your network to improve yourself, to be around opportunities, to be in the room where it happens so you can get an opportunity to invest in that business deal or get into an opportunity to become a better mindset, have a better personality, to improve yourself. Be around people who are improving. If I was still around the people that I went to middle school, high school with, are you kidding me? We have nothing in common. I am exceeding in my life. They're remaining the same. You can't, friends either pull you down or they pull you up. And if you're around somebody who is not successful, who's not going after anything in their life, you will soon be the same. So focus on being around people and getting around the right network to improve yourself. That's what middle class people do. They hang around losers, so therefore they become losers. Number 8, middle class people make their kids their main focus of their life. They are often the most super involved people in their kids' life. It is weird that they know the relationships that are going on in the school, that they know every minor detail of their kid's life. They're living vicariously through their kid's life because they have no life. It is time for you to pay attention to your kids, but don't make your kids' life your life. It's time for you to get out and start creating your own life instead of being so focused on your kids living through them that they're like, hey, mom and dad, I need a little bit of space. Maybe you should go get a life, okay? Some of y'all need to hear that. Number 9 is they talk about everybody else. Middle class people talk about everybody else and how astonished they are about those people. They talk about the rich like they're gods. They talk about the rich about how unattainable it is, how they were given something, how they have an ability that nobody else has. All they do is talk about everybody else. They're never talked about because they don't do anything out of the ordinary. They're not going after anything. They're the people on the sidelines talking and narrating about the players and the game. I would much rather be in the game than be in the crowd, and that's what these middle class people do. They talk about everybody else, and often they stir the pot and create drama and discredit people, and they have a loser mentality when it comes to other people of success. You should avoid these people at all costs, and this is why they're stuck in the middle class. They've accepted their job, and they believe that they're stuck where they're at, and they're making excuses for why they're not successful. They talk about everybody else, but eventually you need to be the one who's talked about. You don't get talked about unless you're successful. Number 10, middle class people constantly talk about retirement. They talk about ending their work. Rich people don't talk about retirement. They talk about their next business venture. They talk about investments. They talk about growth, expansion, positivity. They don't talk about quitting. They don't talk about retirement. Oh, I can't wait I'm saving up to retire in 5 years. No, the rich person can retire whenever. They're continuing to work because they enjoy it, because they're competitive, because they want to do it. They're not out there working to an end. They're working because they're building something. And when you're working to build something, you don't leave at a certain time. You leave when the job's done. And quite frankly, you build it and then you build something else. That's what entrepreneurs do. That's what rich people do. That's why you'll see Warren Buffett working in his 90s. And his friend, the late Charlie Munger, who just passed away, who worked all the way up to his death. Those people were building something and they weren't focused on when they're going to retire. Middle class people focus on retirement. Rich people focus on growth and expansion into their elderly years. So today's video is about improving your life and limiting that middle class mindset. If you want to become rich, you have to think differently. You have to act differently. You have to eat differently. You have to do everything differently. You can't remain like everybody else and become rich. Ordinary, normal people don't become rich. Extraordinary people become rich. Creative people become rich. And inspirational people become rich. So if you want to become rich, you have to do the hard stuff. You have to do the stuff that the middle class isn't doing. And you will become rich someday. So limit these mindsets. And if you like today's video, please hit like and subscribe. Thank you.